there. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes,
Yes, I can. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes,
Let me try to
I
start.
can see it, Aaron.
Okay, great. Fantastic. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Should I go ahead and begin, Kiyomi?
Yes, just a couple of things. Okay, the hosts and presenters, well, hosts or co-hosts of presenters, yeah, you can mute any participants who accidentally unlock a mute button. So yeah, if you have any noise here, if you hear any noise, you can just mute the participants if you're host or co-hosts. Okay, and yeah, that's all I have to say. So yeah, Aaron,
Okay.
can you please start?
Great. Yeah, thank you so much, Kiyomi. And hello, everyone. Thank you very much for attending this session today. My name is Aaron Campbell. I am a teacher at Kyoto University of Foreign Studies. I teach English, and I'm here today with two of my colleagues, Rebecca and Jody. Could you guys just briefly introduce yourselves?
Rebecca, ladies first.
Oh, thank you, Jody. My name is Rebecca Calman, also a teacher at Kyoto University of Foreign Languages, and happy to be here today. Thanks. And Jody.
Yep, I'm Jody Campbell. I'm originally from Toronto, Canada, but obviously I live in Kyoto now, and I'm a EFL teacher at Kyoto University of Foreign Studies. Thank you.
And we are not brothers, even though we share the same last name, but we're both missing our hair, so we feel like brothers, don't we, Jody?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, well, let's jump right into this. The title of our presentation is Learner Audio Use in a Large Extensive Reading Program. As I mentioned, there we go. We teach at Kyoto University of Foreign Studies, which is a small to medium-sized private university in Kyoto, Japan. And we started our extensive reading program very small in 2011. And over the past 10 years, it has grown to about 2,700 students total, maybe about 2,200 readers of students who actively participate, and about 50 to 60 teachers. Also, we have a graded reader library of over 3,000 titles and about over 20,000 books. So that's grown over time. Our word counts all along have been tracked by mReader, and that has been a wonderful tool for us that has allowed our program to expand and to grow. We're very grateful for what mReader has done for our program. And in 2020, last year, partially sparked on by the pandemic, our library shut down and students were not allowed to check out books. And so we migrated the program to Xreading, which in addition to tracking word counts like mReader does, it also provides a digital library, and that's been wonderful. And for the purposes of this presentation, almost 99% of those books come with audio. And that audio actually comes in different speeds. So not only is there an original speed, but students can make it faster, they can make it slower according to what their desires are. And so what we noticed over time was that some students were using this audio, even though we didn't request them to do it. They were just requested to read. And we started wondering about halfway through the year, why are students doing this? Why are they choosing to use the audio, and why are some of them using a lot of it? We also learned that we can track, we can see not only their reading speeds and how many words they're reading, we can also see how much they are listening. And so we were able to hone in on students who did lots of listening as opposed to students who did no listening or little listening. And what we found was that of the 2,700 readers in our program, we had an average listening time of only about an hour and 20 minutes, and that's through the whole student population. And then I'm having a little bit of trouble here with my screen. The total number of people who actually did some listening or more was about 1,600. And of those listeners, they had a higher average word count, they had a little bit higher average reading time, And of course, their listening time was higher than the average student. And so what we did using Pareto's principle, we focused in on the top 20% of those listeners, which is about over 300 students. And we saw that their average listening time was about 9.5 hours, which is almost 7 times the amount of listening that the average student did. And so we decided to focus on those top 20% to find out what it was that made them read, made them listen as opposed to just reading. So we came up with 2 research questions that we wanted to answer. Why did these top listeners in our program choose to listen when they were only required to read? And what is the method that they are using to listen in this context? That is, are they just listening by closing their eyes? Are they multitasking? Are they reading while listening? We wanted to find out. So that was our main purpose here. And that's basically the purpose of this presentation, is to share our results from these 2 research questions. So we designed a very simple survey that we delivered, I think it was through SurveyMonkey, and we sent it out to those 337 students. And we basically asked them 2 basic questions. Why did you choose to listen to the audio on Xreading? And when you did listen to the audio, how often did you read at the same time? Because we heard from conversations with students that lots of them were doing reading and listening at the same time, as opposed to just listening. And of course, we asked them to explain their answers in question 2, and then any other comments or questions in question 4. So the answer to question 1, why did you choose to listen to the audio on Xreading? The most common response here was they like it. They simply like to listen and read at the same time. But also very common was they want to improve their listening skills. They like listening more than reading, and listening is simply more fun because reading makes them sleepy. So clearly, of the 177, or about half of the students who actually responded to the survey, we got a little bit of insight as to why they're listening on Xreading. Now, when we asked them to explain their answers, one of the most common responses was they wanted to improve their pronunciation. And that makes sense, actually, if you think about language learners reading. They may not often understand not only how to pronounce certain words, but how to pronounce certain collocations. And when they read, they have that inner voice in their mind. And maybe a lot of them are unsure, and that can lead to fossilization of maybe improper collocations and intonations, etc. And of course, they want to improve both their reading and their listening, not just their reading. And the one that I thought was very interesting is it brings the story to life, which also makes a lot of sense. A lot of these audio recordings have music to them. They have sound effects. The storyteller uses, emotion, and it really does bring the story to life. And that can be entertaining for students, especially if they have to do a lot of reading, which our students do. So it can really make it less boring for those students to feel that the reading is boring. Now, digging in a little bit deeper into the qualitative responses, one of the students said that listening allows you to hear the pronunciation of the words, so it's easier to remember that way, especially words you don't understand. Other students felt that if you only read, you'll unknowingly stop at a word that you don't know, or the reading speed will slow down. But if you read while listening, you will not read it back. You'll be able to understand the content at a constant speed. Others said it was simply enjoyable listening to the intonation and studying the pronunciation. Another student felt that the audio helped him concentrate more. His parents read to him when he was a child. So when he listens to the audio, somehow he feels comfortable to pay more attention and get deep into the story. So obviously there's an emotional connection with the sound there. Another student said it's just simply easier to understand the content if you read and listen at the same time. And this is what I love. If you read a sentence and you think your eyes are getting tired, you just close them and you can understand the content by the voice only. And other students use it for things like shadowing, which is not really extensive reading or extensive listening, but they're finding other uses for it as well. So that was quite insightful. Now, we also asked the question, when you listen to the audio, how often do you read and listen at the same time? And if you put always and usually together, you've got about 85% of the students almost always or usually reading and listening at the same time. There's very few students who are rarely or never doing that. So very few students are listening only. This is mostly, it's not really extensive listening, it's extensive reading that's enhanced by the audio. So I thought that was very interesting as well. I imagined that there would be more students just doing the listening and not looking at the text. This is not really a question worth going into at the moment, but we decided to interview some of the top listeners just to get their insight into their experience. And our top listener, who had over 40 hours of listening throughout the year, said that he actually, this is a female, she was able to learn pronunciation and read a book emotionally. So it was more enjoyable. And she actually read aloud with the audio, and she read it while listening. And then she listened to the story again after listening to it normal or a little fast, and slowed down the audio speed when she didn't understand. So this ability of Xreading to offer audio in different speeds is obviously very useful for readers like this one. Another student who had over 30 hours of listening said that he wants to improve his English. He wants to get a job in the future. And so he always read sentences with voice. He says, I want to match the voice with the sentence. And if I use the double speed or triple speed, I want to be able to listen to fast English. So this guy is obviously aware that he needs English in the future and he needs to understand fast English. This person also says it's easier to understand the story with audio. And this person's using the fastest speed and following with the eyes while listening. And if I do this, my reading speed is slow without the audio, but if I use the audio, my reading speed will increase. Again, another person says it's simply easier to understand. I can do it faster, and I can always stop the audio and go back and read the difficult parts and then continue with the audio while reading. Another person says, I like music, I like sound. And so I've done a lot of studying by sound. So listening comes naturally to me. And this kind of indicates that some students may be predisposed to consuming the content through audio rather than just reading. And that might be very enjoyable and fulfilling for certain students who may hate reading, like my own daughter does. She doesn't like to read. So anyway, this person says, when I'm sleepy, I just listen, do some physical exercise. It just depends on my feeling. So this addition of audio to text gives students flexibility according to their mood, how they're feeling, etc. So that kind of brings us to the end of what we plan to present here. And just some final reflections before we open this up for question and answer is that looking through our survey results and through our interviews, we've seen that audio is helpful to students in numerous ways in extensive reading practice. And the use of, a lot of students are talking about using that faster audio to boost their reading speed. It pushes them to read faster. I thought that might be something interesting for further research. Using audio as an antidote to fossilization of improper, well, quote unquote, improper pronunciation, intonation, tone. I think this can be very helpful for a lot of students who may be reading things as they would pronounce them and not necessarily as a native speaker or a more advanced speaker might pronounce them. And of course, we feel that since this is kind of new to us as a program, we're now starting to develop some strategies for speaking practice based on the graded reader audio and text. One of the first things we did this semester was develop a video that we could show to teachers and students that demonstrates how to use this audio, what the benefits are, sharing some of the results from students from the previous year to kind of turn more students onto it. I feel like a lot of students didn't know that the audio was there. Some of the conversations that I had with students, they just weren't aware of it. And a lot of that has to do with just the fact that all of us, teachers and students, were thrown into this without any preparation because of the pandemic. Xreading was totally new to 99% of everyone. And it was just a learning process. And I think this leads to, in the future, developing better onboarding processes for the role of audio in extensive reading programs. And that's something we're looking into as well, maybe Maybe there's a way to identify students up front based on their learning preferences or preferences for sound or music that might, maybe we should be encouraging these students to use the audio while they're reading to enhance their experience and maintain their motivation and interest. So that's basically about it for this presentation. I just want to very quickly thank Professor Mami Yoshida, who's been our coordinator at our program, who's done so much for the students and especially the teachers in keeping this program going. Paul Goldberg, the president of Xreading, has been very supportive of our program. Professor Tom Robb, our program would not exist without him. He founded MReader, and we built our whole program based on MReader. It's a wonderful tool. And of course, the Extensive Reading Foundation, who makes all this stuff possible. So anyway, thank you guys very, very much for listening to our presentation. And yeah, if you have any questions or comments, we're happy to try and